Erik Michael Overdyk. We've been friends since kindergarten, but we first started being best friends in 2nd grade. I wanted to share the story of the first time we hung out with you all. There are many variations to this story, but since it is Erik's day, I will share his side of the story, even though I believe it's wrong. We were in the backyard digging for buried treasure with small gardening shovels. Erik claims that he was on the verge of finding the greatest treasure in the past century, and jealous of this discovery in my own backyard, I hit him in the face with a shovel. I did, in fact, hit him, but it was not on purpose. I went running in and told my mom what had happened. My mother was worried that it was a full-size shovel, but luckily Erik managed to escape with only a bloody nose. Erik, ever since that day, I have been forever in debt. You thankfully continued to be my friend through such a tragic incident. You're one of the best guys a person could ask for as a friend, and one of the smartest people I know. Next year, I don't want you to forget a couple things. If you ever feel sad, just fall on the nearest couch and watch Finding Nemo to lift your spirits. If you're missing your friends, just remember the great times of your sophomore year spring break. And when you go to parties next year, hopefully you won't forget that the host is always the nicest person to hang out with. Also, remember that after college, we have plans to start a business with Tyler. Good luck on your speech.
You would think that living abroad and learning about new cultures would have no downside. I'm grateful for all my foreign experiences, but this blessing becomes my curse every 4 years. The World Cup is my favorite event of all time. The World Cup is a soccer tournament with 208 nations competing to win bragging rights as the best country for the next 4 years. Supporters from all different countries and backgrounds meet in this global event and put aside their differences for national pride. There's nothing better than cheering on your favorite country, but that's the thing. I don't know what my favorite country is. I've lived in 4 different countries and visited 11 others. I'm proud of my global identity, and I try to make personal connections with each place. Soccer seems to be the unifier in the way that I've always connected with these experiences. So, my dilemma every 4 years is to figure out whom I want to cheer for. This is such a hard question because each country has influenced me and shaped who I am today. I was born and baptized in London, and my favorite club soccer team is from there, so this alone gives England the early lead as my favorite country. Although I only lived there for 6 months, there are a few stories that my parents have always told me. Many of you know my brother Alex and how we have a love-hate relationship, but we didn't always have the love part of it. We got off on the wrong foot. From the day I returned from the hospital, Alex wasn't my biggest fan. He was a little jealous of all the attention my parents were giving me, so he decided to do the only sane, logical thing he could think of. He bit me on my head as hard as he could until I cried. Nevertheless, you can find me watching English soccer on my couch every Saturday morning. So, when I watch my home country compete with some of my favorite and the world's best soccer players, I find it hard not to root for them. Despite the weather in London, we managed to move to an even rainier and colder climate. My family and I found ourselves in Hamburg, Germany. We had a hard time learning the language and making friends at first. Once again, I couldn't escape the biting that I had suffered in England. Our maid would often bring her daughter, Brenda, to work. While I would be peacefully playing with my toy cars or soldiers, Brenda would come up to me and start biting me until my crying would alert one of my parents. But after some time, we started making some very close friends, including our neighbors, the Hurdle family. They showed us hospitality and made our time there amazing. Their children, Jan and Felix, who are a little older than Alex and I, would look after us and make sure that we were always having fun. Jan and Felix introduced me to the great game of soccer, and they served as my first coaches when we would kick around a soccer ball in the backyard, and I'm always thankful for that. The question of my allegiances became even more convoluted when we moved to where our family would call home, the wonderful US of A. I've lived most of my life right near Louisville, where we made the decision to add a new member to our family. Ellie, our black lab, was an obedient and loyal dog to 3 of the 4 members of our family. But she knew that she had power over me at age 4 and really took advantage of that. I would not be able to wear socks in my house without her chasing me around and jumping on me trying to bite my feet off so that she could chew on my socks. This later turned into a bad habit for her since she's had to have 4 surgeries to remove socks from her stomach. But just like Alex, our relationship got much better over the years. In the U.S., there's so much to do. It was here that I went to my first Kentucky Derby, learned to play lacrosse, and learned to drive. In terms of soccer, I played on many YMCA teams, and some of those players are still my teammates today. Nationally, the U.S. has been a growing threat, and it is always much more fun to cheer for an underdog. But our lives would take quite an unexpected turn when my dad accepted the job in Guadalajara, Mexico. Alex and I weren't too happy to hear the news that we would be missing the crucial social years of 6th and 8th grade, but we began to warm to the idea. I have countless memories from our time there, but I'll never forget the one night after soccer practice when I noticed that Ellie was acting a little strangely. She was barking constantly, and when she snapped at me, I realized that it wasn't Ellie. My mom had dropped Ellie off at the vet earlier, but when she was leaving that night, they'd given her the wrong black lab. Instead of Ellie, we had picked up Gorda, or Fatty in English, and taken her home. But with perfect weather, we played soccer year-round with some of the best players in the city. I love following Mexican soccer because a few friends of mine are now playing for the club teams there, and my friend's father is actually the national team head coach. So how can I not cheer for them? But I can't talk about international experiences or soccer without mentioning Holland. I visit my dad's family there once a year, and it is one of my favorite places in the world. How can you not love visiting family who live only a 5-minute bike ride from the beach, even if the water will give you hypothermia after a few minutes? We take sailing trips and biking trips whenever we are there, but my favorite thing is playing beach soccer with my 9 cousins who are also avid soccer fans. Family always comes first, so I should cheer for Holland, right? As I've said, the question of whom to cheer for is so difficult because of all the lessons I've learned and connections I've made with each place. The countries have taught me to never judge someone before I get to know them, to look forwards, not backwards, and that different is not always bad. Also, I've heard the saying a lot today that we need to be global citizens in today's world. But I've interpreted this in a different way. I believe it is much more important to make personal connections with different cultures rather than just reading an article or keeping up with the latest news events. Real change can only come through genuine relationships. So try and make personal connections with everywhere you go. There are so many lessons to be learned outside of our own worlds, and it will amaze you. I can never choose one country over another because each is a part of who I am today. Thank you.